yesterday in we'll continue to keep tabs on what's happening in the House and Senate. But yesterday, the Senate had a late session, and they were debating House Bill 633. And this was a sort of Medicaid expansion type deal here, where apparently at the federal level, they have agreed to cover postpartum care for new mothers up to 12 months, a full year at the federal level. So in Idaho, they want to, this bill was up here to extend coverage, Medicaid coverage, to postpartum mothers for up to 12 months under Medicaid, and have it be paid for using the federal dollars, which of course, once all that money comes into our state, it feels kind of fungible, and all of it is our tax dollars, regardless of whether it comes from the federal government or whether it comes from the Idaho government. It first comes from our paychecks, from our pockets. And one of the things that was being used in order to get this thing across the line in the Senate was an appeal to our spiritualness, an appeal to Christianity and to the Bible. And Senator Glenita Zeiderveld stood up and kind of took issue a little bit with that. So let's listen to some of the debate on House Bill 633. This is postpartum Medicaid coverage. This would extend postpartum care under Medicaid to 12 months. I believe currently it might be 2 to 3 months, but this would take it on for a full year under Medicaid. So again, let's listen to Senator Glenita Zeiderveld and what she took issue with.
That we are concerned about postpartum, but I was just Googling here, and it says that 1 out of 10 women are on Medicaid. So that means there's 9 women that are not on Medicaid. These women too get pregnant, and these women too have postpartum, but a lot of them are probably working 1, maybe 2 jobs, and we're not providing that same care. And I don't think that we should take from them to give to those who are on Medicaid and to expand that. And I just want to share, do I have to state the source of the paper that was on my desk?
I think you need to cite the source as
Okay.
per the rule.
Okay, so I want to read a little bit from the Idaho Chooses Life, paragraph 2.
Go ahead, Senator.
Okay. It says, Scripture commands that we provide for widows and orphans in distress. That is exactly what this legislation does. I want to make a correction here. Scripture does tell us to take care of the orphans and widows, but that is not the government's job. That's not the original intent. The taking care of the orphans and widows is by personal, church, private, but we do not take from somebody to give to somebody else. That is not charity. Charity is when it's freely given. And with that, I'll be voting no.
Yeah, interesting how people, when they want to spend your other people's money on these social expansion of government and social welfare programs, they have no problem going right to the Bible and quoting and using that as some sort of justification, when all we keep hearing is separation of church and state, separation of church and state. And there's a disconnect here. There's a disconnect, and people don't seem to figure out that it's somebody who is religious or spiritual or a believer who's in these positions understands the proper role of government is not to take from other people and disperse it. It's to protect our rights. It's to protect our God-given rights. Okay. And Glenita Zeiderveld spelled it out correctly there of what it's going to take, what it should take. We talked about this yesterday. There are mutual aid societies. Our country used to have mutual aid societies that would help each other. The churches were much more heavily involved in these orphans and widows type of charitable issues, and we've gotten away from that. And we need to be admonished for it. Absolutely. But it's certainly not the role of government in this situation. Senator Scott Herndon also addressed this issue and then moved the debate forward as well against this expansion. So let's listen to Senator Scott Herndon.
To debate the bill, Mr. President.
Senator Herndon, you have the floor.
I just want to say on the letter from Idaho Chooses Life, Scripture commands that we provide for widows and orphans in distress, but we can't assume that all the mothers that are going to be covered. And my understanding is this changes what's currently happening on the ground, that it automatically enrolls them up to 12 months, whereas currently they may be on 60 days, and the sponsor can correct me when you get to it, but so it'll make it an automatic going to the 12 months rather than the optional. And my understanding is that most of them probably opt in and go to the 12 months. 2 points. They're not necessarily orphans. Number one, they have a mother. Number two, I assume there's some fathers involved here. Number three, this fiscal note says we're not going to pick up any additional costs, but if there is a percentage of those people that would not have enrolled automatic or in the opt-in and go to the automatic, there's going to be an additional state cost because we're sharing costs with the federal government. So I don't know that the fiscal impact of this is truly zero. I do know that there are private marketplace options, and we can assume that some of these mothers would seek a private marketplace insurance option or some other medical option, and that we're now offering them a federal option automatically. And that, of course, comes at the cost of all of Idaho's taxpayers because we're all paying federal income tax. And, of course, we still continue to have that ongoing debt problem that most federal expenditures, and I know we've said it before, but we have to be fair and point out that the cost of the national debt this year in interest alone is greater than the entire United States defense budget. I think theoretically we can all guess that this is not a sustainable financial model for the federal government. And every time we do this, this situation is implicated, and I don't know how long our leash is.
Who knows? Who knows? We are teetering. But let's just keep expanding government. Let's just keep going. The writing's on the wall there. Okay. Senator Brian Lenny stood up as well on this bill, and he gave a short statement. So let's listen to Senator Lenny's remarks.
Piggybacking off Senator One, looking at this fiscal note, it is a problem. And similar to other bills we've talked about, it kind of, to me, implies that federal money is free, or it's monopoly money, or that it doesn't count. But we have to remember that Medicaid costs went from $2.5 billion in fiscal year 19 before Medicaid expansion to $4.7 billion in our current year, fiscal year 24, nearly double. And 90% of this is federally funded. Like, again, I mentioned earlier, federal debt has increased around $12 trillion since fiscal year 20. That's just 4 years ago, $12 trillion the year Idaho expanded Medicaid, and this is just another part of the problem that's going to continue to grow that federal debt balloon until one day it pops, and it's bills like this that are going to make it happen.
Yeah, incredible. The states should be leading on this. The states should be leading on trying to rein in spending. And we get directly affected by these things. And, we saw yesterday, we were talking about how, and for some reason, this triggered a lot of folks over on X when I posted about it. But this SNAP program, this food stamp program, where they would give EBT cards to students on summer vacation from school. I let me see if I can rephrase this correctly, because it's not that I understand. I comprehend. I'm able to understand the words that are coming out of the people's mouths when they say, that children are hungry and mothers are, postpartum mothers, and I know I'm going to be called heartless and callous for saying this, but this is not the proper role of government. The proper role of government is not to take all of everybody's money and just disperse it. That's socialism. That is not the proper role of government. Do I want to help? Yes. Do I personally help? Yes. But there are plenty of other avenues to help. I refer back to the Davy Crockett speech. Not ours to take or ours to give, whatever, or not ours to give, whatever it was. where he argued against a small portion to $20,000 to be given to a widow of a fallen military soldier during the Civil War. And he said it's not the role of government to take everybody's money and just hand it off out of because we're up here legislating from the heart. If we really want to act from the heart, why doesn't every member of this body donate a week's pay to that widow? You'd raise a heck of a lot more money than the money that we would take from the taxpayer. So get to work, folks. Get to work. Next clip, Senator Tammy Nichols, I believe. Let's listen to Senator Tammy Nichols on this issue.
Thank you. So as I'm looking at this bill, it dawns on me that just last year, we saved Idahoans millions of dollars by removing ineligible people from the Medicaid rolls. And so now we're going to add more people back on. They don't have a choice in the matter, and it's going to cost taxpayers more money. So to me, this is not a conservative, fiscally conservative approach to tackling the budget that is continuing to increase, as it was just stated, over a shorter period of time by millions of dollars. This also expands government, and as we continue to grow government, there's more strings attached and there's more dollars that continue to go to it. And this is not free money. This is money that is paid for by the taxpayers. And so now we're going to take a program that's meant to help people, which is great, but it's supposed to be a temporary program. And now we're going to force them to be part of it for a longer period of time than what they may need to be. To me, this is expanding the welfare state, and it's continuing to put people into the mindset that welfare is a lifestyle instead of just a temporary solution. And so I have a lot of concerns with the cost involved. I have a lot of concerns with what message this is sending, and I have a lot of concerns on what this does to the taxpayers of Idaho. And so I'm not going to be supporting this bill.
Yeah, well, there we go. Welfare. Welfare is a way of life. All of this, I mean, coming out of COVID, where they were just sending out money and money and money and money, and a lot of it was our own money. I mean, that's our money, you know. But there was a lot of people who ended up applying to keep getting money and to stop working and to stay home and to just why go back. You know, I have a personal story. I knew a friend of mine was out of work, and they were in the production business. And I had got hired on to a new show, and I said, hey, you should apply, and we could work together on this show. And this person wrote me back and said, how much does it pay? And I said, I think it's starting at this, but you know, with all these things you can negotiate. And they said, I don't know. I make a lot more. I make about that much on unemployment. So I think I'm just gonna stay home. I don't blame him. Who's the sucker in that one, huh? Me, who's getting up and going to work when I could have just been staying home collecting the money. Who's the sucker? Okay. With that, let's close this debate. This bill ended up passing the Senate. I'm not trying to tease you along here. It passed because of the mentality of folks like this. Let's listen to Senator Ben Adams' quick reasoning on why he voted for this bill.
Mr. President, not everybody in this room was here when we passed the heartbeat bill, and not everybody in this room was elected when Roe v. Wade was overturned. And the state of Idaho became a beacon for the pro-life movement in this country. And this legislation fulfills the state's obligation to continue that as a pro-life bastion, and I proudly support this legislation. I thank the senator from District 9. Senator votes aye.
Senator Adams votes aye.
The state's obligation, Ben, I'm sorry, it's not the state's obligation. It was the state's obligation to protect life, to protect your right to life. It's not the state's obligation to then pay for your life, pay for every aspect of your life. That is not the state's obligation. It's our obligation. It's our responsibility. These people have lost sight. They have lost sight of what it means, of what this country was founded upon. It is not the role of government. And when Roe v. Wade was overturned, you can go back and check the record. I made it abundantly clear over and over again that pro-life groups, folks who've been out there, big pro-life advocates, and all these different groups, churches and everything, who were trying to win this battle, this pro-life battle, that they had better step up and help these mothers, help these poor mothers who otherwise would choose abortion. It's up to us to step in the gap and help these women who are going to need help. I'm not denying that they don't need help. They are going to need help. It's about who helps them. And when you have people stand up like that and say it's the government's job to help everybody, I'm sorry, sir, you are incorrect. You have lost sight. You have either duped everybody or you have lost sight. I commend you for your defend the guard push, Senator Adams, but come on, man. That is not the proper role of government. And you know that. And a lot of these people know that. So they're either being disingenuous or either the marble dust has clouded their judgment. They're being, I don't know what's going on. You guys can make your own judgments on this. I'll have people come on and accuse them of all sorts of different things, but that's ridiculous. All right, so 633, just like all these other bills, passes the Senate. It'll make its way to the governor, where the governor thinks also too that it's his responsibility to take care of everybody. So with that, we'll take a quick break. We'll come back with some good news. How about that? Some good news. You've seen some good news. You've seen the scrolling.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government and what we were tasked to do.